there are always things that stand out in someone's life, but mostly, I have the feeling that you want the audience to be able to see us as people.
Exactly.
Okay, so my first solo performance was when I was 6 years old. I got to perform King David Was a Shepherd Boy in the Christmas pageant at my first grade school, which was called Holy Sepulchre.
Holy Sepulchre. And that was located where?
That was in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
I got my first guitar when I was 14. My mother gave it to me. And we lived in Cary, North Carolina at the time. And up the street, my neighbor, Susan Rice, was from a Cary, North Carolina family. Her father owned the biggest chicken farm in the county. And she and I decided that we were going to learn to play the guitar together. She knew more than me. And she started to teach me the song, Bury Me Beneath the Willow.
Bury Me Beneath the Willow, right?
Yeah, yes. And when we got to the F chord, we both couldn't believe how hard that was. And I remember that we got a roll of Scotch tape, and we thought if we put a few layers of tape on our fingertips, that maybe we would be able to play the F chord without so much pain. And that didn't really work very well. The F chord put a damper on my guitar playing for a long time.
Yeah, I know this story.
And I still love that song.
Bury Me Beneath the Willow.
Yeah, so that was that. And my mother also gave me that Alan Lomax's book, The Folk Songs of North America.
Yes, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I started learning some songs from that, like The Housewife's Lament. And
oh yeah.
then the next time I was on stage, I was 17, and there was a coffee house in Niles, Michigan, and there was an open mic. So I decided.
Wait a minute. When we jumped from North Carolina to, when did that move take place then?
Oh gosh, my family moved a lot when I was growing up.
Did they?
They moved to Buchanan, Michigan when I was 15.
When you were 15, okay.
That's what brought me to this area.
Okay.
Yeah, so that coffee house, I decided that I was going to do Joan Baez's song about the silky.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that? That is in a very strange key with a very strange melody. And I got my first bout of stage fright ever. And I couldn't tell if I was on key or off key, but I could tell from the looks on the people's faces that I was off key. And I finished it, and I vowed I was never going to put myself through that experience again. But music has a strong draw. So I got my first mandolin when I was 21 from my then husband, Kenny Blackwell. And I began learning bluegrass. And then I spent 20 years learning Irish music. And then I spent years learning old-timey music. And along the way, I got back on stage because, I was spending hours a day learning how to play jigs and reels. And after a while, I just wanted to perform. I think, the urge grew to try it again. And it was nerve-wracking, but it was worth it. So those were my early experiences.
Those are good ones. Those
Yeah.
are great.
You couldn't come up with a more compare and contrast
Okay, good.
of stories. I borrowed my brother's guitar when I was 40 years old. So that's when I started. 40. So I was a child of growing up in the 50s and 60s and absolutely in love with Fats Domino and Roy Orbison and the Everly Brothers.
I need to interject.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to go all the way to 40 yet. I want to hear a little bit about your early childhood.
Well, I'm putting that in perspective.
Oh, okay. All right.
Why what was this 40 thing?
Yeah.
So that there was the 40 years were a love affair with music, but no performance, no, I fiddled around on the guitar a little bit when I was 12, but that didn't even count. But I loved all of the pop, the country, and that whole melange of American music of the 50s and 60s. And
that was just a listening thing.
Yes, and loving it.
Not dancing or.
I love to dance too. Sure, go to the dances, but it was just internalizing for sure. And finally, I saw Roy Orbison on Austin City Limits.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
In the early 80s, maybe 84 somewhere, when he came back, and I was so struck by the beauty of his songs and his performance and what he was doing. I just said, well, I've got to get, somehow find my way. And within, it took 3 years, but that's when I borrowed my brother's guitar. Brother Kevin, younger brother, loaned me his guitar, taught me the chords, GCD, within 5 years. And that was, just to give you a perspective, that's 1987. So
1987.
you can do the math. I was born in 47. So within 4 or 5 years, we had created a band. We found a brilliant guitar player, lead guitar player, drummer and bass player, and we created a band called The Enlargements.
The Enlargements.
The Enlargements.
What a great name, huh?
And
I heard about the Enlargements before I met Riely.
we
I was
covered.
like, really?
And of course, you start out, George, covering, Neil and Bob Dylan stuff and Marshall Tucker Band and all that. But one day in 1993, I wrote a song, and I brought it.
When was that? 93?
1993.
1993.
Like 6 years into GCD, I wrote a song I came up with, and I brought it to the Saturday practice with the band, and they loved it. And our great lead guitar player ripped a lead right in the middle of my song, and I was absolutely taken.
What was the song? What was it?
It was Dust Devil.
Dust Devil.
Dust Devil, yes. Oh my God. It's not in our song list anymore.
No, but tell me, what was its general gist? I mean,
it was inspired by riding along from Elkhart, where I was working in head offices, to Middlebury, and I looked to the south, and there were the newly plowed cornfields and soybean fields, and there was a dust devil going across it.
right.
And I looked out from the toll road. I'm driving my car, and I went, look at that crazy wild thing out there.
Yeah.
It's really got all of its energy, and it thinks it's but look at those trees over there. It's going to run right into those trees, and its futile energy is just going to be dissipated. And I just, dust devil, making your way across that new plowed field, and it just came to me, and I wrote it that night and the next day. And I brought it to the band within a week, and they loved it and played, and everybody's helping everybody out, and they helped me out, and that was the first song of many. And so there was 10 more years of playing original music with the Enlargements, and then
Wow, 10 years.
doing an original band is very difficult, because how many shows are you really going to be able to do? So 5 shows a year, really. We were doing at the Midway Tavern, that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I finally wasn't able to do my song list. I had a lot of songs that I wanted to perform, not all fit into the band. We had to play other songs that others had written, and covers. So I decided to go solo at that point. And at that point, now we're starting to get toward the Molly part.
Right.
I in like 2002 said, I'm going to go to an open mic and play my original songs with my guitar solo to see if there's, and within a few years, I was a regular at Fiddler's Hearth, and that open mic,
The Box Factory.
the Box Factory up in St. Joe, every open mic in the region, all the way down to, you know, West Lafayette and everywhere around.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I would just perform my stuff, and then finally decided to record, and had a friend in Nashville, Tennessee, and she invited me down to record my songbook, you know, at least 10 of them. And
Yeah.
I did that in 2004. And by that time, the Fiddler's Hearth thing was really caught fire. This area was, if you recall, George, was very fertile for songwriters right in that period, that 2003 to 2010. It was amazing. And the talent that would show up at Fiddler's Hearth, even over in Mishawaka at the Phoenix, where Steve Forsman had his. Well, it really was. There were probably 20 to 25 performing and recording songwriters just right here in this region. And they were all doing albums, and we were all playing on each other's shows. And sure enough, there at Fiddler's Hearth on stage, there's this lovely, incredible singer, great playing mandolin, and Molly Moon. And I just said, I've got to meet her. And we met there, you know, at the open mic scene, and got to know one another. So that was the early part, and then the meeting with Molly. And then we took several years before we ever really, you know, we kind of got together personally, but we spent several years waiting and making sure the personal worked first before we really started to do music. And so,
Which is another whole level of cooperation.
Yes, it is.
As you know, as you know.
yeah,
Dude,
So I'm going to interject.
yeah, go.
go interject.
Riely talking about the first song he ever wrote made me remember the first song I ever wrote which was back when Jimmy Carter was president.
Oh, yeah.
And the name of the song was "If I Only Had a Job." And you can imagine from the title that I only wrote part of it, that I took the Wizard of Oz song, "If I Only Had a
For sure.
Brain, a Heart,
Yeah.
Courage," and I wrote my own lyrics to it. And it was so exhilarating to see, just to see it come together. And then I took it to a group that I was playing with, which was Kim Hoffman and Rosie McCormick. We had a little trio for a while, and they loved it. They embraced it. They embraced me, and we performed that several times, and that was really fun. But then, you know, I realized you can't make a valid career out of changing the words to somebody else's song.
Right, sure.
But it was a great launching point. It was a great launch. About the time that Riely is talking about the mid 2000s, I just got tired of playing traditional Irish music and old-timey music, and I just got tired of playing stuff that other people had written, and this urge to see what I had to say.
About 2007, you say?
Yeah, in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So of course, being with Riely had a big influence on that, because Riely modeled being a singer-songwriter. He took it seriously, and he spent time at it. And he also modeled what he calls the fierce artist, which means that someone who gives themselves the right to do this, and to do it with diligence, and to create results, and then to share those results with the world. And those things were a focus that I guess I really needed, like a close model to give myself the permission, right? Oh, I just wanted to add that. Okay.
No, that's good. That's good. The fierce artist. Do it. But Molly, let's go back to that. You began writing other songs then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So now I have a small
Wonderful.
songbook of songs that I spent a decade on each one of them, making sure that every syllable is exactly where I want it, and learning how to play the guitar, because mandolin, only one of our songs that we've written together or that I've written, do I play the mandolin as the lead instrument, because guitar is the right instrument for a singer-songwriter.
Well, like what is it? What Harry Chapin wrote that beautiful song, Six-String Orchestra, about the guitar. I think I always like that. I don't know if you know that song, but it's such a beautiful song about the guitar, because of how versatile it is.
As far as Molly's writing and us together, I think a really key moment came probably in 2008 or something, when Molly brought an almost fully recognized, idea and song and melody and forward. And I had heard her working on it. But I was respectful of her creation, and she brought it to me.
I was not forthcoming.
And she said, here's my song, what are your thoughts? And the song was what turned out to be The Reckoning, which
right.
Which is, was the lead song on our album, and certainly has the most amount of plays and the most requests at shows. It's a wonderful piece. And I was just thrilled to have a chance. And I gave her a couple of thoughts. I said, you really have to use that line you used about the cemetery that we drive by, and you said, please don't have me buried here near the side of the road. I said, this is the time for that. And then I had one other input with her about, it needs a sense of place, and we put it in the Appalachian Mountains. Right. So beyond that, it was this fully rendered, gorgeous piece. And indeed, Molly's playing mandolin as the lead instrument, the mandolin. Yeah. And then I'm just strumming and staying out of the way, as well as the recording. It was one take, beautiful piece of work by Molly. But that was really the launching, where I said to myself, we can be fierce together. This is an artist. This is
That's a nice phrase.
She is truly has it, and asked me to help. And I was like, yeah. That song is, The Reckoning, is still stunning for me to be on stage with Molly.
Let's divert back to a little talk. Molly, talk a little bit about writing The Reckoning.
About what?
Well, about writing it, about what, how it came to be, The Reckoning.
Sure. Some songs are autobiographical.
Yeah.
And some songs are imaginative.
Yeah.
So when I said that to Riely, we were driving south on 31, and we got to the south side of Kokomo, and there's this graveyard there on the side of the road. And it is so close to the side of the road, because the road has widened so many times that the semis and the cars, when they drove by, they would spit gravel on the headstones.
How sad.
It is, isn't that? So that inspired me to try to capture. I wanted to talk about that, but so it turned into a story about a woman who had a short and difficult life, and she was dying, and she was still angry about a lot of things that had happened to her. So, I'm going out on a limb here to say that now it gets autobiographical. I'm not dying, but I have struggled with ways to get past anger at things that have happened in my life.
Sure.
So I used her voice to talk about that. And I used that image of the graveyard south of Kokomo. And I did used to live in the Appalachian Mountains, close to Roanoke, in a little town of 2,000 called Parisburg. And that was when I was in 5th and 6th grade. Huh. So I know that place.
But the giving up of your baby child at birth is not part of the autobiographical thing, but it is such a powerful image to anyone, man or woman, that is the essence of the story, that she gave up this baby at birth for the baby's good, you know, and that awful decision that had to be made on the spot. It's just told, the story is told so simply and so compellingly, with the wonderful break, you know, don't bury me by the side of the road.
And even
I still
bigger,
celebrate that
even
song.
bigger is like, is what I did in my life, or what I do in my, are they sins?
Mhm.
Am I going to be forgiven? Was it worse of me to get pregnant out of wedlock, or was it worse of me to give this baby up for adoption, or to let this baby have a better life? So it's funny that, singer-songwriters end up delving into the most serious topics often.
Well, don't you think that's part of the service
Yeah.
of
And it's-
singer-songwriters?
And
They
that
bring-
leads me to the point that another thing that Riely modeled was, he tells the story about when he wrote a song that was that sad and played it for somebody, and their response was positive, really positive, and he realized that he would have to decide then and there, is he going to share that side of himself with people who don't know him, which is also what singer-songwriters have to have the courage to do.
Right.
And at that time, if I may, I
may.
was not really a singer-songwriter. I was in the band on, 2 days a week of playing at my house, with the buddies, and we'd do 5 shows a year, and I was writing songs, and was not a regular performer or recorder. And I wrote that song, the particular one is Not This Deep. And it opens with, well, my broken heart is like an open wound. I'm a goner sure if it don't heal soon. And
Just a nice little ditty.
yeah, a nice little ditty. And then there's 3 more that just don't, 3 more verses. And I really came, I had a job, I had a little company I was running, I had a career, I was in the world. And I had to really think for a day or two, am I really able to sing this song to anyone, or to especially the public? And I said yes. I just said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to sing Not This Deep. And that just opened, again, it's kind of like the band saying, hey, that's a great song. It just opened up the doors to saying, okay, now I am allowing myself, whatever they think or wherever this goes, I'm allowing myself to talk about deep feelings. And certainly not all my songs are about deep feelings. I've got a lot of silly songs and
Good.
my, and heartbreakers and, all kinds of stuff. But there's this core over there, or to the, that is about, what is in my heart and mind, and you kind of have to have the courage to share it. And I gave myself permission that day, and that pretty much opened up the subject matter for songs.
Back to you. Let's talk a little bit about this new album or new stuff that you're doing with Nate.
Sure.
We have 2 songs that we released as singles over the last couple of years, and they're going to be on the album, as is the tradition. And then we have eight quote new songs that we're really close. We have most of the tracking done on them, and we just have some editing, and we have one more soloist coming in.
And how would you say this album is different from other albums?
I'm going to jump in and say, since the last album, Molly's work has come forward in our duo performances in a great way, and in a large way, and proportionally way up to 50% of the show and often more, and people love it. And those songs weren't recorded, and we wanted to make sure they wound up on an album, and they are going to wind up, 4 of them are winding up on the album, or 3 of them are of those particular, 4 of
Four
them.
of the 5.
Yeah, and then there are, and so we're really thrilled about that, because people come up and George and everybody, our friends and all the artists, the music thing has changed as far as an album. Where does it go, and why would you have a CD?
right.
People love to come up after the show and get a CD. We don't sell them, many of them, online or all of that kind
I
of
understand.
thing. They love to have one when they see us, and they take it home, and then we sell some by mail, and and they get out there. But people would come up after our shows in the last 5 years and go, "Oh, I love Snowman. I love that song," and it hadn't been recorded. So this project is a lot about what Molly has written and what we wrote together. There's a couple of fun ones, Birds Fly and Devilish Charlie, that are really upbeat kind of tempo songs, and have that sort of a bluegrassy country, what flavor, swing, rag feel to them. So we've got that going. And then, if I may, the other 2 are 2 songs of mine that Molly really realized that they were sitting on the shelf. I always loved the songs, but they weren't able to be performed, or they haven't been recorded properly. And finally, Molly stepped up and said, "Don't feel sorry. Why don't we kick that in the butt a little bit and up the tempo? It's a bit of a lament, but at the same time, it's kind of cool musically. Let's do it." And sure enough, it kind of just lit up in it, and a lot of fun. And the other one was a influence. I gave you my early influences. Believe me, the country just came out of me, all in my songwriting, a lot of it. And it was a song that was written from the perspective of a little bit of an older woman talking to a younger woman, and the younger woman happens to be seeing the older woman's, as it turns out, husband. And
would you just repeat that again? I've got old ears.
It's the older woman talking to a younger woman, say like they meet me for coffee, and the younger woman is, as it turns out, the punchline of the song is she is actually seeing the older woman's husband. And this is a bit of a sharing of feelings. And I was never able to perform it. I love the song. I tried to have some folks perform it in Nashville. That didn't work. And then Molly stepped up, and over about a year and a half of time, she got the lyric and got the voice and sang it beautifully, and brought me in on harmony to sing harmony with her. So that's a cool part of the album for me. And then beyond that, and I'll let Molly take over, the idea of it was to really bring Molly's work forward. And I'll tell you, in voice, well, you hear it, George, it's just brilliant. Her singing is great. The other thing is, we wanted to have sort of a band feel.
It's fun to live with.
And we put it together as a band, and we rehearsed with Corey Miller on drums and Chris Campbell on bass, really fine younger players. And they rehearsed with us, and we put together this little band over a period of a month or a month and a half. And we took them for 2 days into Nate's studio and knocked out the 8 songs. And they were just amazing, and just gave it all. And from just the 4 of us, we really had almost the album. And we brought in a couple of soloists, and to add just a little more music to a few of the songs. But anyway, that's kind of that's what's going on with the new album.
Yeah,
Molly,
we were after, like, Riely and I perform as a duo. So you don't want to create a CD that's got a symphony orchestra on it, because it will dash the expectations of your audience for your duo show when they bring the album home and it's all gussied up. So we kept it as simple as possible. But on the 2 songs that were recorded elsewhere, they both had other musicians on them. And we decided to sparingly add musicians to play some leads and fills, kind of like to strike a balance. So we
Sure.
kept it as simple as possible while making it as rich as it deserves.
Mhm.
Right.
Well put.
Thank you. And it was wonderful to work with Nate. Their studio is aptly named. He does have nimble wit, and it just was a treat to be around him. And he's flash fast on all those sliders and all of that high grade equipment that he has.
Also,
there. So,
that he is a whiz with the high tech that he's got, but he is very old school when it comes to the room and the mic and the performance. He knows where he knows the history and how great recordings have been created over time, and he respects that. And so I love working with him.
Yeah, he really is a
Great
special
balance.
I like him a lot. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, have you thought about the 4 songs you're going to do?
oh yeah,
Yes.
Would you mind naming them for me right now?
no,
I don't care what order
got it
you
right
do
here.
Good.
We're gonna do A Man Like Him,
A Man Like Him.
written by Riely, interpreted by Molly.
Okay.
We're going to do Devilish Charlie, which is a rag.
Devil what?
Devilish.
Devilish Charlie.
Yep. And we call it that because it starts out brisk, but then halfway through, I get to do a solo and I grab the tempo in like a horse grabbing a bit between its teeth, and I speed things up.
Okay.
And we take it out a lot faster than we started on purpose.
And that's all instrumental.
And
that's the instrumental.
That's
rag.
an instrumental. And I just want to say that not only did, Corey and Chris, they memorized our songs, which is a very laudable thing to say for somebody who's going to be your rhythm section. That's
Sure.
You're not fortunate enough to have a full-time band with. They memorize those things. And when they come in, even thinking about it, I just get this visceral rush of energy. It was very exciting. And then the third one is Don't Feel Sorry. And that's another one that Riely wrote that I helped bring to life by insisting that it's not really a lament, it's a snarky assessment of bad behavior.
Oh.
That's another look at it. Yeah.
And then the fourth one is called Black-Eyed Susans. And I wrote that song.
Black-Eyed what?
Susans.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the flowers. Yeah.
So it uses a lot of garden analogy to talk about relationships. And it's a little bit difficult song because the verse is in 4/4 time and the chorus is in 3/4 time. So you're bouncing back and forth between 2 time signatures throughout the whole song.
Wow.
They memorized that too. It was really, really good work.
And over time, George, I've developed a little slide rig. I probably had it when we performed there. That's got a volume pedal and it's got some delay on it and all. And essentially, it kind of comes out as sort of a steel guitar, but also kind of like a cello. And that's my go-to behind these kinds of songs. That I just put in pads of notes in the chords, and I just love to be on stage. There I am. I just get to play these lovely notes, often the notes that Molly gives me. She says, "How about that note? Let's use that." And I get to use those backing up Molly, and on that she'll play guitar and sing beautifully, and then I get to play my little cello slide, I guess I call it.
Yeah. Now you live 2 places, right?
Yes.
You winter in the South.
Yes.
And where is that exactly again? I'm sorry, I should know that, but I don't.
It's called Apalachicola.
And of course we wrote a song, and
Yeah, one of the songs on the album is called Apalachicola Bound.
yep. And
Okay.
I'm saying that I jumped in because I realized that one of the verses describes where it is. And if you look at a map of the Panhandle and Florida,
Yes.
the panhandle keeps coming across and it's going to hit the main peninsula that heads
Right.
down. But before that, there's a little point on the sea, as I say in the song. On the panhandle map, there's a point on the sea, a dot on a road in an ocean of trees. Well, that point is the mouth of the Apalachicola River.
Ah,
It is surrounded by state and federal forests, US forests, and it is in a county, also mentioned in the song, in the entire town and county that has one stoplight. Entire county. So it's forest, it is riverine, it is bay, it is wetlands, it
sounds
is
beautiful.
is gorgeous place. And
It
then
is.
it's the Gulf and the barrier islands. So we found this place and just fell in love. And it's only about 2,800 people.
2,400.
2,200 are artists and musicians.
Yeah.
No, actually, there's just a lot of working folks there. It is not an affluent town. It is a
No.
working town in many ways.
And
There
it
are-
doesn't have
Go ahead.
traffic jams.
No.
Right.
But it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Biosphere.
Oh,
Site.
UNESCO.
Yeah,
Oh,
isn't that cool? That's
Wonderful. I
very-
love that agency. I think the UNESCO is such a great thing. I mean, it does such good work in the world.
Yes. So that's our home and we have a little place that we took a 1930 home and that had all been added on to, and it's just a little couple of bedrooms and a couple of baths and a lovely little place in the town. And we fixed it up, and that's where we go from late December to early April. And
It's a nice
have
life.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Lovely place. Yeah. It's chilly there in January, but it's not 4 below zero. It's 48 and 50.
So do
60.
you see yourself touring out of that area too, as well as touring out of when you come
We
back?
hope to, yes.
Yeah, we probably do more shows in the South than the North now. And of course, the COVID has thrown everybody off, and we had
Right. Oh, yeah.
we had shows canceled in 2020, and we haven't even tried in much in 2021. So, but our idea was to do maybe 3 shows while we were there in town, and we have a nice little audience that has found us and we've found, and then we would take at least one jaunt per season out to St. Augustine. We went down to Vero Beach, went over to the Gainesville area, and just to do like a folk Sunday folk in the park, or a community center kind of show or a house concert. And those have been wonderful. And so that's part of our life down there. It's a musical life too.
So
Right.
we'll have a good time on stage and
George, we usually introduce our songs with about 30 seconds of backstory,
Yeah.
because we too feel that we want people to listen with some prior knowledge